So somehow it's already been almost 2 months since I did an update on the Hügelkultur garden, so I guess it's time for an update. We've got everything growing out here now. It's looking great, and I just wanted to give a more in-depth tour of all the different things that we have growing here and just how healthy everything looks. And I can't even begin to express just how excited I am to see our garden doing so well right now, especially compared to the previous 2 years. If you've been watching my videos for a while, first of all, thanks. I appreciate the support. And you've probably seen that in 2019, I decided to build some raised beds, but I did a really amateur job mixing up the growing media for those beds. And our garden has just been incredibly disappointing for the last couple of years. So it's been just a real bummer for not just for us, but for the channel, because I kept getting excited that we would have this beautiful garden to show for my videos. But I've just been embarrassed with how so many things were failing and we weren't getting a good harvest. If you want to learn more about why a lot of those things failed, I made a couple videos about that. You can check out the link in the description for those. When we decided to cut down our tree, I realized that was an opportunity to try making Hügelkultur beds. And now, I mean, this is just incredible to see everything so healthy. I would have to say this is probably the healthiest garden that we've ever had. So I do just want to give a quick disclaimer though and say that I am not trying to endorse Hügelkultur as any kind of guarantee of a successful garden, because there's no way that I could know that with any certainty at this point, if ever. I'm not a scientist. I am just a YouTube gardener making my own observations with what we're trying out here. These beds are new. This is our first time growing in them. The wood that's buried in here has not had very much time to decompose. I tested the soil in this area before I dug these out and built the beds, but I have not tested it again since then. So I don't know how those nutrient levels have changed. It's going to take a bit more time to gather more information and make a more formal assessment of Hügelkultur itself. What I do know is that the soil that we have here is already very good to begin with, because we have grown our veggies directly in the soil before. They did very well. The only problem was that there's a lot of clay, it's slow draining, a lot of our plants were drowning after heavy rains, and that's why I decided to build the raised beds. I know the soil is good. I'm sure that is a big factor to the health of our plants here. Otherwise, I have been trying to employ a lot of the good gardening practices that I learned over the last few years, using cover crops to add fertility and increase soil life and organic matter, and mulching with wood chips and organic matter, and trying to water with rainwater from the rain barrel as much as possible. So I know all of those things could be contributing to how great everything looks here, but it is still going to take some time to figure out how much of this is due to Hügelkultur. So now that that's out of the way, let's jump in, take a look at what we actually have growing here. So let's start along the trellises in the back, because that is some of the most impressive stuff we have at the moment. Our tomatoes are all looking just spectacular. Again, the last few years, the tomatoes have not done well. There we go, trying to get the autofocus there. And yeah, we've only had maybe a couple that have done well out of, 12 or so plants. We've got 9 this year, and every single one looks just incredible. This is everybody's favorite cherry tomato, the Sun Gold. And well, I did have a little accident when I was watering this morning, and I bumped the end of this truss. But the Sun Gold is one of the earliest fruiting, and so these were actually from when the plant was growing inside. It already got a few flowers, and then when we brought it out here, it continued growing out the rest of the truss. And so much for that. But I did count this one here has 17 potential tomatoes coming out just in this one truss, which I think may be a record, at least for us. So we've got the 2 sun gold plants right here. My wife is extremely excited for those. She's been chomping at the bit for those the last few years, as have I. And then next to that we have another cherry. We got the chocolate cherry growing right here, and we've definitely got some starting to come out on that. Again, looking very healthy. The smell from these tomatoes is giving me all kinds of nostalgia from being a kid growing up in New Jersey and going over to our neighbor's house and playing around in their beautiful garden they had, all their towering tomato plants. And that's how, at least for me, that's how I know when a tomato plant is healthy, because it takes me back to being a kid, seeing all those healthy plants in our neighbor's yard, and the smell is really, you know, they haven't smelled this good the last few years, so I know now that these are gonna be a real winner this time around. And so anyway, we threw in some peas on the side there, and then it took quite a while, and I almost lost some hope on these, but we did get cucamelons finally coming up. It took almost 3 weeks for these to germinate, and I've never grown these before, been wanting to try them for quite a while, so we'll see how that goes. So right in front of the tomatoes we have Black Beauty zucchini. This is also looking fantastic. No signs yet of any powdery mildew on there. We are starting to get lots of flowers coming out. As of yet, it looks like mostly males, but we'll just have to keep an eye out on those and see when we start getting some females. Nothing to worry about right now, but otherwise, yeah, I mean, these plants look great, and I like having them right in front of the tomatoes there because they provide some shade to the roots on the tomatoes. And going along the side, we've got dinosaur kale. This is our first time for this as well. For a lot of these things, this is our first time growing them. Well, like cabbage, for instance, we'd never grow cabbage, and these are just getting huge. I probably should have put some jalapenos right in front there, but we don't eat a whole lot of cabbage. We do have a few recipes that we like to do though, so thought we'd try that out. And well, yeah, I mean, that's really gonna start coming to a big head there pretty soon. Then we've got some leeks in between all of those, all along this edge here. Haven't grown those before. We've got some red onions all behind the cabbage here. I know those are delicious. A whole assortment of beans. I think these are all black beans in the front here, and then down the other side we've got some of the other kinds, those beautiful dragon tongue beans from Baker Creek, and just some green bush beans down there, and I think we've got some edamame on the front as well. And I did plant some amaranth, some Chinese multicolor spinach, and that's also taken a while to come up, but you can see those are finally sprouting. I put seeds all along the front here, but yeah, you can see how dry and cracky the soil gets, but I've been trying to mulch with some mostly decomposed compost as much as possible around there, but there's still a little bit of fungal growth on some of that, so I try to keep it away from the plants a bit. We have a couple of broccoli heads on the way, and that one's a little bit behind, and then there's 2 more on the other side there, and some more cabbage. One thing that hasn't done all that well is eggplant. This is also a Black Beauty eggplant. These were doing just incredibly well in the house under the grow lights. As soon as we brought them out here, well, they've survived, but they've been growing very slowly, not really doing all that much. So I hope those pick up at some point. That's another one that we never really grow, but there are some good recipes to do with eggplant. So, well, here we go. We've got some pepperoncinis that are ready to pick. Definitely like those. I'd like to try actually, canning them in some some vinegar, preserve them for a bit longer. And I think this is a green chili growing right here. Now for the peppers, you may notice I have topped off a lot of them like I've always done in the past. I have topped off when they've gotten about 4 or 5 sets of leaves up. Then you can just cut off the top little bit and encourage the plant to actually grow out and bush out more, as you can see that this has been doing. And so that works well for that. I've done that with some of the plants, and some of them I have just left as they are, just to see what kind of a difference that makes in the sturdiness of the plant and how much of a harvest that we may get from it. And this is a Sweet 100 tomato. I haven't grown this one before. People seem to like that one a lot. It's a very high yield cherry tomato. And then next to that, my labels have already worn off down at the bottom here. So this is a rainbow. I haven't grown this one either. This is a large tomato. So we tried to arrange these so that most of our cherry tomatoes, or all of them really, are over on this end, and then going to the larger tomatoes over here, because we get more sunlight toward this end of the garden. And so we wanted to give all the bigger tomatoes some more sunlight, some more time for those to ripen up there. So everything going from here over is going to be more the bigger tomatoes. So yeah, that is the rainbow. And then next to that we have I think this is the Brandy Wise. It is a disease-resistant hybrid from the brandy wine, so this should be resistant to early blight and late blight and septoria. So that doesn't mean it's completely immune to those things, just that it will have a bred-in resistance, so we will keep an eye on that as well. And then next to those, these are cantaloupe that we got from my wife's uncle. He's got a farm, he grows lots of cantaloupe. He gave us some of those last year, and we just saved a ton of seeds from those, and oh, there we go. And then we have some jalapenos here, and more pepperoncinis ready to be picked. Some lemon basil. We got another one of those right there. I did already see the onions, broccoli, more peppers. Yeah, some of these are the Lesia pepper. It's a very small, very sweet, supposed to be very sweet pepper. And then we also have, I think these are the lilac bell peppers from Baker Creek. So these are supposed to turn a beautiful eggplant purple toward the end of their ripening. And yeah, well, let's see. This was the whole mix of like tatsoi spinach and some mustard greens and all kinds of things in here. So of course a lot of this stuff has already bolted. We've eaten quite a lot from here, but I was about to pull all this out, but it's still getting quite a bit of traffic from some pollinators here, so I'm just kind of leaving that alone for the time being. And in the front, we've got our sea of Bright Lights Swiss chard, which is a beautiful sight on its own. And we've got another large tomato here, a giant Belgium. We have grown that before. We've really only been able to get a couple from those. Again, that is due to the bad soil in the other garden. And this, I believe, is a yellow brandy wine from Baker Creek. I think this was one of their free seeds from the year before. Sorry for the autofocus. Usually does a better job with this. Might be the trellis here that's messing it up. But then next to that, the last large one is a Cherokee Purple, one of our favorite large tomatoes. Those are incredible. And then kind of interplanted between those, we did a couple of cucumbers. One of them is a straight 8 and one's a lemon. I forget which is which, so yeah, cucumbers. And then, yep, some more peppers mixed in, some hot peppers, some sweet peppers. More of the, I think these are the dragon tongue beans on the top here. And this stuff is the first time growing this. This is the Yodfa Chinese kale or Chinese broccoli. You can eat all parts of this stuff. We so far have really just been kind of picking off the florets there, but yeah, you can eat all parts from this, saute it up. It's all delicious, very healthy, nutritious. It's kind of a nice alternative to the regular broccoli, so you don't have to wait so long, you know, to wait till this gets nice and big and try to time it right so you get a good harvest there. You can just, you know, chop away on this, cut off some little pieces as you go, and throw those in salads and whatever you like. And so then we got carrots all along the top. I forget exactly what type of carrot that is, but try to put them on the top of the mound so that they would have enough soil depth to go way down in there. So see how that works. More onions, and we've been harvesting off of all of our different lettuces here. Some butter crunch and Simpson, and this is just a red salad bowl and red romaine, and that's been real nice to just keep picking leaves off of that and letting it keep going. And the same with all of our white Russian kale. We've been growing this stuff for years. It's great, and this is, you know, like most kale, it's a biennial, so this will also come back in the spring and we'll get more for it. So that's pretty much it, guys. Hopefully it wasn't too boring for you listening to my monotone voice going around pointing at stuff and trying to get the autofocus to work. Bugs flying on my eyeballs. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll be doing a lot more harvest videos on this as we start getting more stuff from it. And I'm just really thrilled to finally have something that I'm really proud of and happy to share it with all of you. So I'll see you next time.